Hello, my name is George Zora, and my research is focused on the attractiveness of sports teams to cities. My research question is what explains differences in the ability of cities to attract and maintain professional sports teams? I chose this question because I am a sports fan and I often wonder why some cities have multiple teams that compete in the same league, but whole regions of the country will be without a single sports team. I believe this is due to a variety of factors, including if the city has extreme weather and if the city has a large tax base to help subsidize teams coming to cities. The methods I used to conduct this research was simple scaling to determine the extremity of the weather and a most different systems designed between Las Vegas and Miami to determine the tax base growth of both cities. My literature review. Sports have been around for centuries and have been enjoyed by people all over the world. They can often unite people from different backgrounds and give them a common thing to support. However, as sports has become an increasingly profitable business, many cities, specifically in the United States, are trying to cash in by enticing an owner to bring their team to a city. However, this is much more complex than it sounds. There are many benefits to bringing a sports team to a city. Siegfried notes how many cities want to bring in teams as it can make a city more popular and bring some attention to it, as well as be a major moneymaker for the city, but notes the difficulty that arises when figuring out how to pay for a team and their stadium. Humphreys looks to weigh the advantages and disadvantages of a team subsidizing a stadium cost, noting that this would improve the chances of attracting a team. Brown looked at an example of this in Cincinnati with the baseball and football teams, and this is a major reason why both teams are still in Ohio and have not relocated. Additionally, research has shown that sports teams can be a representation for a city, and if a team is doing good, this will reflect well on a city. This sort of sports diplomacy is referenced by Koberski as they note how large sporting events can bring some major PR to the city and shine it in a good light. Lago et al. Also acknowledges the strength a team can bring to a city, as many communist countries in Europe's best teams were located in the capital cities, as they were intended to represent the whole country globally in their sport. However, sports cannot be played without players, and Frey et al. Looks to determine if players compete as good as their higher paid teammates, with the results showing this not to be true. Therefore, if a team can pay all their players competitive salaries, the team will perform better and improve the city's chances of winning a championship and keeping their team. My research will build upon this research and look at some large cities that recently gained sports teams and determine how they got them and what the teams will do for the city. My hypotheses are that the more extreme the climate of a city is, the less likely the city is to have a sports team. The greater the growth of a city's tax base, the more likely the city is to attract or maintain a professional sports team. And the larger the city is, the more likely to attract or maintain a professional sports team, especially if the city is more liberal. I believe extreme weather will hinder a city's chances of getting a sports team because people may be reluctant to travel or do much if it is constantly snowing or if there is extreme heat, for example. I also believe that if the city is large and has a growing tax base, then there will be more likely to attract a sports team. The higher amount of taxes raised in a city could be used to subsidize things like a new stadium being built, and this would entice an owner to bring their team to a city, as they would not want to pay for a stadium. My unit of analysis was major U.S. cities, and for the statistical method, I believe simple scaling could be used to measure the extremity of the climate. An example being a +1 for each type of extreme weather condition. So every inch of snow or rain would be a +1, every 2 inches would be a +2, etc. My control variables would be the percent of the population that is Latino, as Latinos enjoy sports like soccer and baseball. So if a city had a large population of Latinos, there would be a demand for soccer or baseball. Additionally, the percent of a population that is European would also be a control variable, as Europeans enjoy sports like basketball and soccer. So if there's a large population of Europeans, there will be a demand for a soccer or basketball team to support. Education level is additional one because the higher a person's education level is, the more likely they are to make money, and so the more likely they are to spend that money at things like sporting events. The location of the stadium is also important because if a stadium is located more centrally in a downtown area, more people will be willing to attend it and it'll bring more money to the city. And then again, the extreme climate. If a city has extreme weather, it'll influence a person's behavior by making them feel less likely to go out to sports events due to the weather outside and also due to the possible dangers associated with driving in that weather. My secondary method was a comparative case study, and I chose the most different systems design. An MDSD comparative case study has lots of advantages. This works very well with the two cities I am choosing, Miami and Las Vegas, because they are both very different cities in different parts of the US, but were both able to recently gain new sports teams. So this case study would show that tax-based growth is key to getting a sports team, since while they are very different cities, they both have a growing tax base. Some additional differences include that Miami has multiple established sports teams, while Las Vegas has only recently got a new sports team and does not have any prior experiences with sports teams. Also, Miami is a city on the coast and has lots of beaches and many things to do around it in Florida, while Las Vegas is a very dry city with not many other big areas around it in Nevada. Expected findings and conclusion. If I performed a statistical analysis, I would see that Las Vegas has much more extreme weather than Miami, and this would support the hypothesis that the more extreme the weather, the less likely a city is to have a sports team, since they have very few sports teams in Las Vegas, while Miami, with much less extreme weather, has many sports teams. The most different systems designed would show why both cities gain new teams, as while they are very different cities, a similarity they do have is they both have growing tax bases. And this proves that tax-based growth is key to a city gaining a new sports team. My research could go a long way in helping more cities gain sports teams and maintain the teams they already have. If a city is unfortunate enough to have extreme weather, they can propose a tax increase in the city to help subsidize the stadium and lure owners to bring their teams. Additionally, my research could help cities look into the possibility of hosting major sporting events, such as the Olympics or the Super Bowl. This would be due to the city's successful history of having established sports teams and a reputation of being able to maintain sports teams and events as well. Budget and timeline. This research would take around 2 months to complete and would require a researcher to spend a month in Las Vegas and a month in Miami. Researchers would need to meet with the meteorologists to learn about the weather patterns and climate of the cities, and will also need to meet with city officials in Miami and Las Vegas in order to learn about the city's finances and how they were able to work with owners to bring the teams to the cities. The wages would be roughly $19,500 for a researcher and roughly $3,000 for the interview with a meteorologist. The interviews with the city officials would most likely be free, but they'd have to schedule a time. Travel expenses would be about $300 for the plane rides. It would be roughly $1,770 for the car rental cars, and roughly $5,600 for all the hotels.